The Battle of Stalingrad was a pivotal moment in World War II, taking place from August 1942 to February 1943. Situated on the banks of the Volga River in southern Russia, Stalingrad was a key industrial city that the Nazis aimed to capture to gain control over the region and its resources. The city was a strategic target, and both sides understood its importance. As the German army advanced, they encountered fierce resistance. The Soviet Union, led by various commanders, was under immense pressure but would not surrender easily. The soldiers and civilians of Stalingrad displayed remarkable bravery. They fought hard, often in brutal conditions, and used the rubble of the city to their advantage. Buildings and factories became battlegrounds, with snipers and infantry engaging in close combat. Despite the relentless German attacks, the Soviet troops were determined to hold their ground. Supplies and reinforcements were brought in, often at great risk. True to their spirit, the defenders included not only seasoned soldiers, but also ordinary factory workers and volunteers, all willing to fight for their homeland. The fighting in Stalingrad was intense and often chaotic. The weather added to the challenges, with scorching summers giving way to freezing winters. As winter set in, conditions became even harsher. Soldiers faced not only enemy fire, but also starvation and the bitter cold. As the months dragged on and the battle reached its peak, the German forces found themselves stretched thin. Their supply lines were overextended, and the harsh winter took a toll on morale and physical strength. On the other hand, the Soviets launched counteroffensives, gradually encircling the city as they pushed back against the German army. This maneuver led to Operation Uranus in November 1942, which aimed to trap the Axis forces in Stalingrad. By early February 1943, the German Sixth Army, once seen as invincible, was finally encircled and forced to surrender. This defeat marked a turning point in the war. The loss was devastating for Germany, not just in terms of soldiers and equipment, but in their morale as well. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad demonstrated that the Nazi forces could be beaten. This battle became a powerful symbol of Soviet resilience. It showed the world that the Red Army was capable of standing firm against the Germans. From that point on, the momentum shifted. The defeat at Stalingrad began the slow but steady decline of German military power on the Eastern Front, setting the stage for further Soviet offensives in the months and years to come. Stalingrad would go down in history not just as a battle, but as a testament to the determination and sacrifice of those who fought and lived there. It highlighted the spirit of a nation under threat and marked a crucial juncture in the overall conflict of the war. The strategic significance of Stalingrad during World War II was enormous. This city was not just any ordinary place, it was an industrial powerhouse. Stalingrad had factories that produced weapons, tanks, and other crucial supplies, which were vital for the war effort. Additionally, its location near the Volga River made it a key transport hub. This river served as a major supply route for the Soviet Union, allowing them to move troops and resources across vast distances. For the Germans, capturing Stalingrad was a top priority. It would give them control over the river and the surrounding industries, furthering their campaign in the east. The city was seen as a stepping stone towards securing broader control over Soviet territory, potentially leading to a quicker victory in the war. However, the failure of the German Sixth Army to take Stalingrad would have dire consequences. As the battle dragged on and the Soviets mounted a fierce defense, the Germans began to suffer significant losses. Their troops were not only facing a determined enemy, but also battling harsh winter conditions and stretched supply lines. As the Soviets managed to push back against the German advance, they began to regain the initiative. The failure to capture Stalingrad marked a turning point, shifting operational momentum firmly in favor of the Soviets. The Germans had underestimated the resilience of the Soviet defenders, and this miscalculation would haunt them as the war continued. The loss at Stalingrad meant that the German army was not invincible, as previously believed. It was a critical moment that showcased the capabilities of the Red Army and signaled a change in the course of the war. The Soviets would use this victory to rally their forces, inspiring further offensives and shifting the balance of power on the Eastern Front. In summary, The battle for Stalingrad was not just about a single city. It had far-reaching implications for both the Soviet Union and Germany. It underscored the significance of the city as a hub of industrial strength and a key geographical point, while also altering the trajectory of World War II, marking the beginning of the decline of German dominance in the East. The urban warfare in Stalingrad was some of the most brutal the world had ever seen. As soldiers fought block by block, the battle became a relentless cycle of attack and counterattack. This intense fighting led to staggering casualties, with estimates stating that around 2 million people lost their lives or were wounded. This staggering figure made the Battle of Stalingrad one of the deadliest battles in history. Both the German and Soviet forces endured terrible conditions. As winter set in, temperatures plummeted, making life on the battlefield even more unbearable. Soldiers faced not only enemy fire but also freezing temperatures, often below degrees Celsius. Many troops lacked proper winter clothing and equipment, leading to frostbite and exposure-related illnesses. On both sides, there were serious shortages of supplies. Food and medical assistance were hard to come by, and as the battle wore on, conditions became increasingly desperate. Soldiers and civilians alike had to endure hunger and the constant threat of violence. The fighting destroyed homes and infrastructure, leaving many without shelter as the harsh winter winds howled through the ruins. The relentless nature of the combat meant that even the smallest victories came with heavy costs. At times, soldiers had to fight in close quarters, in ruined buildings and rubble-filled streets, leading to high casualty rates. The experiences during this battle left deep scars on all involved, both physically and mentally. Despite these terrible conditions, the spirit of resilience shone through. On both sides, individuals showed incredible bravery. Even when faced with overwhelming odds, they continued to fight for what they believed in, whether it was defending their homeland or following orders. In the end, the events of Stalingrad highlighted the horror and tragedy of war. The staggering loss of life, the dire conditions, and the fierce determination of those who fought there would be remembered long after the battle was over. In late 1942, the situation at Stalingrad was tense and desperate. The Soviets knew they had to act to change the course of the battle. As winter settled in, they launched a bold counteroffensive called Operation Uranus. This operation aimed to encircle the German forces that were entrenched in the city, cutting off their supplies and escape routes. The Soviets coordinated their attack carefully. They chose to strike at the flanks of the German army, targeting weaker positions that had been overlooked. The surprise element of this operation was key. The Germans were not prepared for a massive counteroffensive and were caught off guard. As the Soviet troops pushed forward, they swiftly began to close in on the German Sixth Army. Communication lines were severed, and supplies ran low for the German forces. The situation for the Germans became increasingly dire. They found themselves trapped within the city, unable to retreat or receive reinforcements. By February 1943, the encircled German Sixth Army faced complete defeat. With no way to fight back effectively and suffering from severe shortages of food and ammunition, they were forced to surrender. This was a monumental event, marking one of the most significant defeats for Nazi Germany during the war. The surrender of such a large force sent shockwaves through the German command and was a huge morale booster for the Soviets and their allies. The success of Operation Uranus shifted the tide of the war in favor of the Allies. It demonstrated that the Soviets could not only defend, but also launch effective counterattacks that would capture the initiative. The victory at Stalingrad was a turning point, giving the Soviets confidence as they prepared for future offensives. This moment marked the beginning of a series of Soviet victories that would continue to push the German army back, eventually leading to significant changes in the overall course of World War II. The aftermath of the Battle of Stalingrad was truly profound for both the Soviets and the Germans. For the Soviet Union, the victory was a powerful boost to morale. After months of fierce fighting and heavy losses, they had shown that they could stand up to the German military and win against the odds. The triumph at Stalingrad filled the Soviet soldiers and civilians with renewed hope and determination. It became a symbol of resilience and strength that rallied the nation. On the other hand, the Germans faced a devastating psychological blow. The defeat shattered the myth of Nazi invincibility that had built up during the early years of the war. Many in the German army and among the populace began to question whether their forces could actually be defeated. The loss of the Sixth Army, which was seen as one of their most elite divisions, sent a wave of shock through Germany. This defeat not only affected military strategies, but also public sentiment. It marked the first major loss for Hitler's forces, leading to skepticism about their chances for victory in the war. The once confident German leadership had to reassess their plans and confront the reality that the tide might be turning against them. The impact of Stalingrad set the stage for subsequent Soviet offensives. With their spirits high and a sense of momentum, the Red Army was ready to push forward. In the months that followed, Soviet forces launched a series of successful attacks that drove German troops westward. They reclaimed territory lost earlier in the war and began to make significant advances towards Germany itself. Overall, the outcome of the Battle of Stalingrad was a turning point that reshaped the landscape of World War II. It confirmed that the Soviet Union could successfully counter aggression and began a series of events that would eventually lead to the downfall of Nazi Germany. The legacy of Stalingrad endures to this day. This battle is remembered not just for its strategic importance, but also for the extraordinary human cost it inflicted. With around 2 million casualties, it highlights the immense sacrifices made during World War II. Families were torn apart, and communities were changed forever, as countless individuals gave their lives in the fight for their homeland. Stalingrad serves as a poignant reminder of the resilience and bravery of those who fought in it. Soldiers, both Soviet and German, faced unimaginable hardships, yet they fought on, driven by a sense of duty and survival. Their stories echo through time, reminding us of the very human element of war, courage in the face of despair. The battle also had lasting impacts on military strategy. The lessons learned at Stalingrad influenced tactics and planning in future conflicts. Military leaders study the events of Stalingrad to understand the complexities of warfare, including the importance of logistics, terrain, and the human spirit under fire. In historical studies, Stalingrad is often viewed as a key turning point in the war. Scholars and historians examine it to understand not just the battles themselves, but also the broader implications for global politics and the balance of power. The discussions around Stalingrad continue to shape how we understand the Second World War as a whole. Today, monuments stand in memory of those who fought, and the stories of Stalingrad are shared to ensure that the lessons of the past are not forgotten. The battle remains a testament to the resilience of humanity and a guardian of the memories of all who were touched by its turmoil.